Rajesh, we'll have you back later for a longer chat, but just a quick word on BSE, you were saying. Rajesh, go on if you can hear me.
Yeah, it depends what Sebi considers a benchmark index. Now, if NSE is allowed to retain the bank Nifty as a weekly contract.
They're allowed to retain. They're allowed to retain, Rajesh. They can, if they choose to.
My suggestion to the NSE would be to retain the bank Nifty as a weekly contract and move the Nifty to the monthlies. I think that would mitigate some of the losses we are talking about in terms of volumes for the NSE. Because clearly the day trading and market making and the weekly of the bank Nifty is far more lucrative, both for the trader's point of view as well as the NSE's point of view. If that were to happen, then I think the losses can be contained at 15 to 20%. But if they decide to retain the Nifty, then I'm afraid, we're looking at a 30-40% drawdown for the NSE in its earnings.
But I mean, if this is so stark and clear, then they would go with the Nifty bank, right, Rajesh?
I mean, it just depends on what the thinking of the board of directors of NSE would be, because the Nifty is like a globally quoted index. The bank Nifty is more of a regional sectoral index. It just depends on what they think should be their flagship contract. Although I think the Nifties and the monthlies has always been there, and it has done reasonably well throughout its life of 20 plus years. The bank Nifty was a relatively newer contract because of the volatility. It attracted the weeklies a lot more than the Nifty. So if they were to play only going by revenue, then I think they should choose the bank Nifty. If there are other considerations, then I don't know.
Rajesh, you mentioned 15 to 20% loss. I mean, you were talking about the hit to NSE. Can you just repeat that point? This is going to be a drop in revenue, 15 to 20%?
Yeah, it'll be a drop in revenue for sure, to the extent of 15 to 20%, provided they keep bank Nifty as a weekly. If they move to Nifty as a weekly, I'm looking at 35 to 40%.
Okay, all right. Anything else which stood out to you? It's largely in line with what they said they'd do.
It's largely in line with what they said they will do. One factor that might even affect the markets even more is the intraday monitoring of positions. Do remember, these position limits came into being in 2020 as a response to COVID. It was pegged at 500 crores now. With everything else, Sebi has said that the market has moved 3x since then. I think the limits ought to be revised 3x if we go by that same logic. And if it's kept at 500 crores, then I'm afraid it will be quite stifling for brokers to manage that on an intraday basis.
I think